Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of GOAT Quest. We've got a special guest. Joe Willie, the beer man, are joined today by the great Sam Washington. Sam, how in the hell are you?
Joe, I'm doing great. You know, I had hip surgery 6 weeks ago. Couldn't walk for 2 weeks. Thought I made a bad decision, but now God's good. I'm here.
You're on the mend.
That's right.
All right. For those of you who don't know Sam Washington, then you're probably not from Detroit. The legendary St. Cecilia Gym and the Ceciliaville Summer League have been the birthplace of some 15 Hall of Famers at last count, hundreds, literally hundreds of professional athletes, and I think it's over 1,000 NCAA basketball players that came through the camp at one time or another. Am I getting close to the numbers?
Almost. I mean, like, I don't think you can give an accurate account, but 1,000, you're in the ballpark. But yeah. It's crazy. Crazy, the numbers.
And there's probably 10,000 who say they played at St. Cecilia because they want the credibility.
Probably more than that.
Yeah. We've mentioned on the broadcast before, Tom had a snapshot of playing basketball at the collegiate level at Saginaw Valley State.
I mean, I don't even think I'd call it a snapshot, but you can.
I was a basketball coach at the high school level.
You were?
I was indeed at Orchard Lake St. Mary's, my alma mater, which is the current state championship team with the number one player in the state, Trey McKinney. I know that hurts my good friend Sam Washington because he was a rival graduate of Brother Rice, another great institution in the Detroit Catholic League.
That's right.
But you won state championships of your own. So take us through a little bit of the journey of you. Now Sam Washington Sr., your father, was the godfather of St. Cecilia who got the program going. You then picked up the torch when he passed far too early. You were Division I college basketball player, and kind of give us the what brought you into focus and when you were running St. Cecilia.
Well, I really was born into sports. You know, my dad was a great athlete. He was all-state football, basketball, baseball at Western High School in Detroit. You know, went to Ohio State for a year, left there, went to Canadian Football League with New York Titans, I think it was called at the time. And then just by default, I have, 2 brothers, 2 sisters. My dad was always active. He was a visionary, too. So when the Detroit riots hit, 1967, city was shut down, city was burning, curfew, hot as hell in the summertime of July that year. And, you know, we didn't have nothing to do, nowhere to go. So my dad was like, and we lived directly across the street from St. Cecilia, ironically, at the time, because he was the athletic director and the basketball coach there. And he's like, you guys are getting on my nerves. I'm going to give you the keys. Go in the gym and just
get these kids
out
of here.
Steam off. Yeah,
that's what parents used to do back then. My parents
Turn them
would say,
loose.
Get your ass out of the house.
Get out, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, then, you know, we're in the gym, me and my brothers, and when the front door and back door is open at St. Cecilia Gym, a little small church gym, it just echoes throughout the whole neighborhood. Next thing we know, all the kids would come into the gym, just, hey, can we play? You know, my dad was like, he's the type of guy to give anybody a chance to do, you know, be successful. He said, yeah, go ahead and play, you know. So we started playing. And my dad, something hit him. He realized there was no summer high school organized basketball in the city of Detroit.
And this is the part that people don't understand. So a couple points there. You mentioned the New York Titans. People are like, what, Canadian football? But the Canadian League actually had a few teams in the U.S. when they started out. So just quick clarification on that point. And then this point about summer basketball. Not only was it not going on at the time before your father put this summer league together, but it was illegal. It was against the guidelines. You would lose eligibility if you played organized ball in the summer. And your dad took that all the way to the state Supreme Court.
He took it. You're right. He took it, Joe. You're right. He took it to the Supreme Court, and it got approved. And so at that time, you would think, you know, the city of Detroit, we had over 1 million. The population was over 1 million. There was like 20 plus Detroit public schools, and there's another, I say, a dozen Detroit Catholic schools around. So it was talent everywhere. So once he formed, you know, the summer basketball, every team in the city of Detroit, including Catholic schools, wanted to be a part of it. So with all the talent reputation just took off because every city team and Catholic school team in the city of Detroit had 2, 3, maybe 4 guys that could easily play D1 basketball.
Yeah.
So NCAA rules were different then.
Detroit was the hotbed.
It was the Mecca.
Yeah.
It
was
the
New York.
Mecca.
It was New York and Detroit.
That was it. And so with the NCAA rules back then so lenient, college D1 coaches can come at will anytime they wanted to the gym to recruit players. And
sometimes they weren't even coaches. Sonny Vaccaro.
It was not a coach. You're exactly right. And they all wanted to meet Sam Washington, my dad, because they felt if they were buddy-buddy with him, any kid that they saw perhaps they wanted, he would guide their way. So it was crazy. And so what happened was with all the talent as guys left Detroit and went to play basketball, their respective colleges throughout the country, they were ready. You know, we weren't afraid of anything. We seen it all. The dunkers, the guys with the crazy handles, you know, the great shooters, you name it, we saw on a daily basis.
Yeah, it was battle tested. It
really was.
Yeah, you picked a Detroit kid because you knew he had already gone through the gauntlet. He'd played at St. Cecilia. He'd been through the summers. There was nothing he was going to see that was more ferocious than what he was going to get in that hot box over on Stearns.
That's right. So when you got their respective campuses in college, we weren't afraid of anything. So right away you had the swag. You know, you had the swag, and we all became a fraternity from playing at St. Cecilia. And once they left college and they were fortunate enough, which was at least a half dozen, back then at least a half dozen Detroit guys was in the NBA.
Yeah. And it starts with Dave Bing. He gets Dave Bing to do the Pro-Am thing at night. Dave Bing brings a bunch of guys in there. Then all of a sudden you got George Gervin, right? You got Magic Johnson and his AAU team. It goes forward from there. You ended up at Robert Morris, but how many guys who you played with went Division I? I mean, out of the handful that you were in the summer league with.
I mean, that's the only guys I would play with, you know, were D1 guys. Didn't know it at the time, but just because of the talent, if you can make it at St. Cecilia, you can make it anywhere. So everybody I played with, you know, and I was always very competitive, grew up that way, you know, because I wasn't afraid of anybody because of, you know, who could I be afraid of if I'm playing against a Magic Johnson, or George Gervin, or Danny Roundfield, you name it. It was just crazy, and the swag became contagious because what happens once a guy from Detroit made it to the NBA, and they would brag to their NBA friends how competitive it was at St. Cecilia, they were like, "Oh, man, get out of here!" And they would bring their teammates there to play, and they couldn't believe it how the talent was. It was just crazy. If we had social media back then, you would really see.
Yeah.
What position was your dad when he played? He played football, right?
Played football. My dad's like what, 5'8".
Okay.
You know, so he played. He was running back in football, point guard in basketball. Yeah, and he was an outfielder in baseball.
So St. Cecilia becomes this elite summer league. It really gives birth to summer basketball. And then these guys from the AAU that were holding this holiday tournament and this one summer tournament, they had the regionals and the finals. AAU was nothing like what it is now. They were literally looking at St. Cecilia, looking at what your dad was doing, pitting the Team New York versus Team Detroit and saying, Sam Washington's got 5,000 people showing up for a game at Rucker Park. We got to change the way this summer basketball. And then they came in with their own little corporate mechanisms. Sonny Vaccaro, Nike, all these sponsors start showing up. Tell me what it was like to be there when you got Jim Boeheim and George Raveling and Rick Pitino and people are coming in. Dick Vitale is at U of D.
It was unbelievable. In my opinion, AAU stole the model that my dad created for AAU because at that time, what he would do was he would take the best players in the state of Michigan, not Detroit, but the whole state, put them on one team. And one year it was Magic Johnson, Jay Vincent, Kevin Smith. I mean, that team alone, those names alone would bring a championship. And so, and that's what he did. And then, you know, because he was going across the country, beating everybody, you know, throughout the whole country. So he got very busy because, you know, everybody was, you know, wanted to grab a piece of my dad. So he gave the torch to a guy named Rocky Watkins, and he kept the torch going. And for years, they would go around the country and beat everybody every summer in AAU. Now, everybody wants an AAU team, so there's like maybe 20 AAU teams in the city of Detroit alone or around the vicinity. And it's watered down.
It's
you have
fractionalized.
Good player here, good player there. It's crazy. So I take my hat off to my dad. He was a visionary, and I really attribute AAU through him.
I would say the godfather of summer basketball.
That was his name.
Sam Washington
that was
Sr.
His name. The Mecca.
You wouldn't have summer basketball at the level and with the sophistication that you have today if it wasn't for Sam Washington's vision and his guts to take. I mean, Gary Waters was the coach, right? That was at the time a player.
He was one of the players.
The player that that was going to be ruled ineligible.
Yes,
if your dad didn't go, and he ends up being a two-time coach of the year in the
top
MAC.
Coaches, yeah. I just think that I have this opportunity. My family, mainly my dad, did more for Detroit basketball in the Metro Detroit area than anybody put together. Yeah, I mean he started it all. The more years go by, he gets less and less credit for that. But people that know, they know. If it wasn't for him, his vision, it would be completely different how we look at basketball in Detroit.
And we didn't get through half of them. Jalen Rose, Vashawn Leonard, Chris Webber, Howard Isley, the whole Super Friends group that came through there. Before that, all the ABA guys. You mentioned Roundfield, but there were a bunch more. Johnny Davis, who won a championship with the Portland Trailblazers. You go right down the line. I mean, there's dozens of them when you run the list down. It's kind of crazy how many guys have connections one way, shape, or form back to St. Cecilia.
And you got to look at it this way, too. Back then, no NBA team had their own practice facility. So in order to hone your skills, you had to come to St. Cecilia to play because the best of the best were there.
Yeah.
Even colleges, guys that went away to college, as soon as their school was over, they running right back to St. Cecilia. So you got to think about it because now every NBA team got their own practice facility. Sure. Things have changed. Very few NBA guys come back to their respective cities and play on a consistent basis, basketball in their respective city where kids can come up to them and, ask for advice and, things of that nature. So, it's completely different now.
They're so much more famous now, too, with social media.
And make so much more money.
It makes so much more money that it's a different sport.
Yeah, they're afraid they're going to get hurt, things of that nature, which, I get it. But, you missed that camaraderie where you got a lot of kids at the time couldn't afford to go to like a Cobo Hall at the time or Madison Square Garden to see their favorite pro player. Couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
But at St. Cecilia, you could because it was free.
Yeah. That's right.
And players when they got finished would sign autographs for the kids, give them advice, give them money if they need it, give them, gym shoes and things of that nature. It was incredible.
Steve Smith calling you in the middle of the night, hey, can you open up the gym? I got half the Atlanta Hawks in town who want to play.
No problem. Absolutely.
Kevin Willis, Steve Smith,
Is that a true
Greg
story?
Kelster.
That's true story.
Yeah.
Okay.
True story.
Jimmy, you opening the gym for Jimmy Walker, Jalen Rose's father, when he was a Providence and then played for the Pistons, one of the leading scorers. I mean, there's so many players that have come through. Does one stand out for you? Because we're going into college basketball to talk college hoops here. Mm-hmm. Who's the best St. Cecilia college player?
Ooh, college player. Probably Derek Coleman.
That's a great one.
Probably Derek Coleman. I give my credit to Derek because when Derek was a freshman at Syracuse, they went to like maybe the Final Four or the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, something like that. I remember the ESPN reporter came up to Derek after one of the games during that tournament and asked him, Derek, you're a freshman and you played so well in this game, you had to be nervous. And Derek looked at the reporter and said, nervous? Nervous is playing at St. Cecilia in the summertime, with all the competition there. This is nothing.
Yeah.
And right after that, the media was blowing up the phone at St. Cecilia trying to call my dad to see what was going on there.
Sure.
That's amazing. That's a great one. So let's crack. We're doing this late in the broadcast for normal, but it's appropriate since we had such a great intro. We're not cracking beers today. The beer man decided that we should get into something.
The beer man didn't decide
You
that.
did. It was your
but
idea.
you can blame me.
It was your idea. So we're going to splash, 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 and then
Mix up a little.
this is a little Maker's Mark.
Okay.
A little the brown
Take
liquid.
the edge off.
Yep, just a bit. We're going to pour it out. get into something here. Try to keep it between the lines. We're not operating a
Gotta
vehicle.
give a toast first.
There
Give
we
a
go.
Yeah,
toast.
very good. To
There you
Saint
go.
Cecilia
Saint
and Sam
Cecilia.
Sr. Ah, nice. So the NCAA basketball world has gone through the same wild transformation with the NIL and the portal, all this money, all these sponsors, all these boosters and the collective. And it's kind of interesting because I came across a book in my research to think about, just how wildly different it is from, when we were coming up through the ranks, when you were a D1 basketball player, Sam. And it's funny how the Saint ties back into this. Because obviously the big controversy after your father passed was the Fab Five scandal with the University of Michigan folks, Ed Martin and his son Carl. Carl ends up writing a book after the Fab Five scandal. It came out in 2018. It kind of got brushed under because of the pandemic. People kind of forgot about it because of what happened at that time. But he writes a book called The Booster, really interesting look at, how many people were helped in a world that would be totally legal right now. Ed Martin today, he was scandalized at the time, I think erroneously, but he was scandalized at the time for coming to St. Cecilia and other gyms and kind of recruiting and bringing these kids into the fold and then supporting them, helping them with the car payment, helping them with the laundry, giving kids a little bit of extra money and then helping, we'll say, counsel them, right? Howard Isley is a great story in the book. He was going to go to Kent State. And Ed Martin was like, whoa. I know some guys at Boston College. He should be playing in the big. He's bigger than and better than the MAC, right? And then, of course, he goes on to a long NBA career and proves that Ed Martin 100% right. So isn't it interesting how guys who were vilified an era before, now all of a sudden in the NIL portal era, they would have been heroes and they would have been right in line with all the rest of these boosters and collectives?
Absolutely. Ed did great things because he loved kids. And he was concerned about kids. He wanted to help kids. Of course, if you were a great athlete, he wanted to help you even more. But let's think about it. The way this society is, right now you got the NIL. So what Ed was doing is what the NIL is doing right now.
100%.
Look at the lottery. They used to put people in jail for playing street numbers and stuff like that. Now they got the lottery.
Yeah.
Marijuana's legal now.
Yeah, marijuana's legal.
Before they would lock you up for that. So, things change. But, back to Ed, may he rest in peace. But, he was just helping kids. What's wrong with that? When I was
his son did 15 months in prison just because he wouldn't rat on his dad.
Right, exactly. When I was in college, I had a scholarship, but I was starving.
Yeah. Oh no, we were talking about that earlier. When we went to Wayne State, we starved. I mean, they paid for our school. We paid for the food. We paid for everything.
Yeah, you're eating dinner out of a vending machine.
Out of a vending machine, or going to the girls' dorm, because the girls always seem to have food. And
I'm sure those
smooching
guys,
off of
all
them.
those guys that went to Michigan, they weren't making maybe a couple grand a month, maybe $5,000 a month.
Getting a car payment sometimes, maybe a couple of dinner.
Yeah, but it
gift
wasn't
cards.
like they were getting hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right, and look what they're doing. They were selling their jerseys with their name on it. Didn't get a penny for it.
And the TV contract.
Yeah, the TV contracts, the whole filling the gyms up and, things of that nature.
That was before the money got stupid.
Right.
Now the money's so stupid that they've got to share it somehow.
Yeah, they have to share it. And they were talking about it for so long. They had to
do something.
You had to share the wealth.
I will tell you this. The one thing that it has not done is made it easy for someone who's trying to evaluate college basketball to follow where guys are, who's coaching them. When I went through this, I was amazed. Almost all, and I'm not talking about like 60, 65, I'm talking like 75, 80% of these guys who are not freshmen have moved at least once in their career already, right? When you look at this list of the top players and these top teams, it is hard to keep track. And you can put a team together really quickly if you got the right name. The biggest, I think, I guess we could debate this, but John Calipari, right, one of the legends of college basketball coaching, another guy who I'm sure was at UMass sitting at St. Cecilia.
Absolutely.
when he had that Marcus Camby team.
Absolutely.
He goes to Arkansas, has a nice run at Kentucky, but wore out his welcome. Mark Pope moves in, a Patino guy, brings Patino down for a little celebration. So my question to you is this one. Between Patino at St. John's, Mark Pope taking over Kentucky, and John Calipari taking over at Arkansas, which of the three of those finishes highest in the rankings this year?
Got to be John Calipari. You know, he seems to always land on his feet.
You like this Arkansas team.
Well, do you think that he took that job without knowing for sure he's getting his 20, 30 million a year? You knew that. He took that job knowing that he's got 20, 25 mil of NIL money to get good players.
Absolutely, because
And that's probably why he went there.
you know, we talked about this earlier. You know, the first thing a kid would tell a coach being recruited is, "Hey, coach, how much NIL money can I get?"
Yeah.
That's the first question.
Yeah.
You know, and if you can't compete, then you're not going to get that kid.
No.
Yeah, there's a new standard now.
Well, hold on.
Absolutely.
All three of us, would any of us not go for the most amount of money? Now, if you really wanted to go to Michigan or you really wanted to go to state, that have some pull. But I take the money.
You'd take a discount for the perfect situation, but it has to be in the ballpark of the money. I agree with you.
I wouldn't take a discount.
You wouldn't take a discount.
Fuck no.
You take the highest offer.
Goddamn right.
Okay.
Yep.
Take the money because
Yeah,
you're not
because
taking
you
it for
never
yourself
know.
only. You
Blow
got
out a
family. You know, you got.
It does say who wants me the most.
Well, it depends on what the difference is.
Yeah.
If it's, I mean, even if it's 50 grand. When you're broke coming out of, I mean, most of us that did anything in college, we weren't silver spoons.
Are you kidding me?
We came up the hard way. Our
$1991.
Our dads were hard on us. And,
I would have taken 50 grand to the bank.
yeah, no question.
No doubt about it. Calipari's got John L. Davis. He comes over from FAU. It's a good segue. He was 18, 6 boards, 3 assists. I mean, guy did it all at FAU, made a nice run in the playoff, in the tournament. And then he goes and follows Calipari to Arkansas. His coach goes to Michigan, and he pulls with him Vlad Golden, the big center from FAU, who had a tremendous tournament, the 7-footer. And then they get another 7-footer from Yale who transfers in, Danny Wolf. So Michigan's playing 2 7-footers. One is a power forward. We don't see very much of that anymore, right? It's the 3 guards and all the high pick and roll and flood the wings. We haven't seen these 2 big men in the blocks before. How do you think that's going to work out for Dusty May and the Wolverines?
From what I've seen of Dusty May in the Wolverines now, it's going to work out because he kind of like coaches similar to Beeline. He likes that 3-point shot. Now, 7-footers, they're shooting outside in instead of inside out now.
Yeah.
You know, look at Porzingis with Boston.
It's that high pick and roll, right?
Yeah.
When they turn and roll, they're at the 3-point line.
At the 3-point line. Nobody shoots hook shots anymore, which was our art. You know, Kareem can attest for that.
And I want to say the big man's numbers, they're not far from a point guard as far as 3-pointers.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
they've been
not.
working on them now for 3-4 years because they know they got to shoot them.
And
right?
especially if you get a big 7-footer from overseas, they're so fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
You know, it's unbelievable. And that's what guys are doing now. When I was coming up, if you're over 6'3", you're down on the block.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
one of the tallest on the team.
Yeah.
You know, now I think, I can't remember the Magic's high school coach's
They're
name.
6'3" in 7th grade now.
Yeah.
You know?
But Magic's high school coach's name, I can't remember his name.
Where'd he go to?
Lansing
Everett?
Lansing Everett,
or
but
something?
gave Magic the freedom to jump center, bring the ball up. You know, Magic
Yeah.
was like 6'8", 6'9" in high school.
I saw Draymond do it too in Saginaw.
Absolutely. And you know, before if you're 7-footer or 6'5" or whatever, take 2 dribbles, you're coming out the game.
Yeah.
You know, so things have changed, and the guys are more skilled now. Yeah, but you know, I still want to see a big fella down on that block sometime.
Yeah.
So who's going to win this thing? We got to start looking at our predictions. You got, again, your father was very good friends with Dick Vitale. Dick Vitale, the U of D coach, who took them to the Sweet 16 with an amazing lineup of John Long and Terry Durod and Earl Curitan, all these guys who went to U of D. But when we look at Dick Vitale's pick, he says it's Kansas. And Kansas shows up at the top of a lot of these lists. Bill Self's been there 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
What stops Kansas from getting home?
Just right now, it's really early. Basically, the season haven't started. This is a preseason, but, Dickie V, he does his homework. And this is fresh off the press. He just texted us a moment ago giving us his top 16. But what stopped Kansas is like maybe an injury, something like that would stop. But, yeah, Kansas, I kind of agree. Preseason, looking ahead, you can go with Kansas as one of the top.
I like Rutgers as my dark horse. When I look I do. You look at Rutgers, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. You guys seen Dylan Harper? This is Ron Harper's son.
Yeah.
Dylan Harper's a 6'6" guard, sweet shooting guard.
Tough.
He had 22 points in the McDonald's High School All-American game. That was kind of the coming out party. This Ace Bailey, this other guard, is 6'10". This is a 6'10" guard and a 6'6" guard, and they got a front court to go with it. So I think Rutgers is going to shock some people in the Big Ten. I know a lot of people are picking Purdue in the Big Ten. I know Tom Izzo is he's going to be fighting it out and trying to sneak into the. But for me, if I have to put somebody at the top of the totem pole that you got to try to knock off, somebody's still got to beat UConn.
You're right about UConn. They're the defending champions, like back to back, weren't they? Back to back.
Yeah. Back to back titles.
You can't count out Nate Oates, Alabama.
Yeah, I like Alabama. They're my number 2. I've got the Houston Cougars as number 4.
Calvin Sampson. Great backcourt.
You got to throw Gonzaga in there. They got the good big man, and they got some good shooters, good coaching.
You talk about the 3. Houston with Cryer and Sharp in the backcourt, both shooting over 40% from 3. Lethal combination with the way that they play with Calvin Sampson's up and down, high-pace basketball, playing that 90 feet of hell defense.
Great coach, and you got to always include Duke at some point. They just gravitate good players. Duke
is Duke. Leave it to be that reruns. Yeah. Coach K's gone, but this is going to be a freshman-led team, right? Got this Nepple or Kneppel, however you pronounce it, and then Mawash and Cooper Flagg, 6'9" freshman.
Cooper Flagg, he's like one of the top in the country coming in. He did well in the Olympic tryouts.
ESPN, LeBron James said he should have made the team. And then he comes in, accelerates his senior year. His twin brother is still back in high school. I think he just transferred to a high school in North Carolina. He committed to Maine. And then Cooper Flagg obviously commits to Duke, but this kid is do it all. I mean, you watch him for 5 minutes and you know that he's next level.
The funny thing about age is, we were talking about that earlier, is that when you get into your 50s, you really realize how quickly you age. I think it's like 32, 31, 32. Most guys are done. They're definitely done with football. But, there's other sports, hockey, basketball, you can play after that. But even when I watch LeBron, he's still awesome. But he's a step or two slow. And he doesn't jump as high as he used to. It's just evolution.
Especially as the season goes on.
Yes.
As the season goes on.
Absolutely.
There's many days I wake up and say, man, what
I can't get out of bed.
What I do yesterday? Why is my back hurting? Why is my groin hurting?
I'm interested to see Cooper Flagg. I'm interested to see Liam McNeely, the freshman at UConn that Hurley brought in. He'll be matched with Caravan, who's already got 2 national championships. The embarrassment of riches at UConn. Bill Self, we're getting back to him, a good Oklahoma boy. He won. Do you know Bill Self was Mr. Oklahoma in basketball? Mr. Really? Basketball in Oklahoma in 1981. Same year that you were in high school, right? 81?
81.
Oh, 79. 81. I'm sorry, you were 79.
I was 87.
A little bit older than him. Wade Taylor and Texas A&M. You don't sleep on Texas A&M. They made a run last year. They could come through that Big 12. And then Iowa State. This Iowa State team is loaded. I'm looking out at the Big 12, and I think the Big 12, obviously Duke and UNC are always there in the ACC, but I think the Big 12 is the most balanced conference this year.
I think so, too. Gonzaga is going to be tough. Baylor. Baylor would be good. We need to mention North Carolina. They'll be in the mix at some point.
North Carolina.
Arizona.
That's Caleb Love.
Yep. Auburn's always tough. Tennessee will be good. And you're right. Even Creighton might even be.
Yeah, but we were talking earlier. This could be totally a team we're not even looking at. With the NIL.
Especially college.
With the changes of people.
Changes, one and done.
I will mention a Creighton fact. Everybody knows Kalkbrenner is the big center there. He's going for 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's a very rare 4-year starter. He was Player of the Year defensively 3 years in a row. Only Patrick Ewing has done that in the history of the league. So we go down this list. You got to give me your final 4 picks. Who is going to be in the final 4? Tom, you first.
I'm going to go Kansas, UConn, Gonzaga, and Duke. Kansas, UConn, Gonzaga, and Duke.
What do you got, Sam?
Okay. I'm going with Kansas, Alabama, UConn, and Houston.
Okay.
Nice. I'm the only one who's not going to have Kansas in there. I think Hunter Dickinson and his group are going to get knocked out. I am going to have UConn and Duke in the finals. And I'm going to have them going against Iowa State and Alabama. I do like Alabama. Nate has got some Romulus high school experience, right? Isn't that where he coached here in Michigan before he got his first college gig? So I like that home blood. I think that he's going to be a tough out, but I do think the final is going to end up being UConn and Bama. And I like UConn to three-peat.
Okay. No Michigan team? No Michigan.
No, I mean, we could, I think Izzo's got a problem on his hands because I don't think he has a scorer that he can count on. I don't know where the points are coming from with this team. Mm-hmm. I like Frankie Fiddler. I like Cohen Carr. I know Carr is the jump out of the gym kid. Jaded Akins is a great two-way player, plays great defense. But I just don't see enough points to survive the Big Ten season on that roster. And I think with Rutgers having gotten so much better, Purdue being excellent, Illinois still being very good, Maryland having a nice injection. They got a great freshman. Derek Queen is the freshman that's a stud that was at that same Monteverde Academy with Cooper Flagg and everybody else. I mean, there's just studs that have come in that I think Coach Izzo's going to have a tough time. This might be the year where they don't make the NCAA tournament. I know nobody wants to hear that, but if I look at the roster, this might be the year.
And then Michigan might surprise people. We really don't know. We have such a small sample size right now. But I saw them in an exhibition game. They look pretty good, shooting threes, but they might surprise some people. And then Wisconsin lost a lot of players through that, portal transfer.
Yeah.
Because they would have been in the hunt as well.
I'm going to bring up one more because I think they were right on the outside looking in for me, is Indiana. So for those of you who don't know what Indiana did in the offseason with Mike Woodson, a great coach at Indiana, they went and got Miles Rice from Washington State. They got Malik Renault, another transfer. They're loaded. They got Balo from Arizona. They made three big moves in the offseason. I don't know how much NIL money they gave Mike Woodson at Indiana.
Do we know, is each team in the Big Ten, do they have the same amount of NIL money? Or does no one have the same amount of money?
No one. It's all the collectives and what they can put together.
So they can spend $100 million.
Sure.
There's no cap.
There's no cap. They can spend $500 million on getting players.
No cap.
It's coming.
That's right.
And that's a problem.
That's coming.
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's coming.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be teams that go from nobodies to winning a national championship in 1 year, and they're going to spend that money.
That's a good segue, right? Because now we're talking about the historical effect of this. Who are the best teams you've ever seen? Because we're going to see some teams, to your point, with this much money out there, that somebody's going to be able to put together the super team, right? Because somebody's just going to decide, I want to spend my $100 million out of my billions on putting together the best team ever at name the university, right? Who's your best team ever in college basketball?
Mine is Duke.
Which one?
2000 Duke. Shane Battier, Jay Williams, Mike Dunleavy Jr. And now they probably had 2 or 3 other NBA players on there too. But I thought that was one of the best basketball teams I've seen.
That's a great call.
For me, I got a few. One is the Magic Johnson, Michigan State team, Greg Kelser and those guys.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. They set the new standard. They're saying Bird and Magic saved the NBA because it was such a great classic between those two.
Jay Vincent was on that bench too.
Yeah, he sure was. That UNLV team was a great team.
They were a great team.
With Larry Johnson and Anderson Hunt.
I think at least four went to the NBA.
Maybe sure
5.
Did.
Maybe all 5 went.
Anderson Hunt was a St. Cecilia guy.
I think they all
St.
5
Cecilia
went
guy.
to the NBA.
They sure did. And then that Michigan team with Glenn Rice and those guys.
Ramil Robinson.
Yeah, that was a hell of a team.
It was.
Indiana with Isaiah Thomas when they won.
Indiana with Bobby Knight. Yeah,
Indiana. Yeah, that was good.
The Indiana team that gets the most run is actually the one before that one. I mean, I'm talking when I say most run from experts. The one before Isaiah Thomas, the 76 team, was the first team to win over 30 games and go undefeated. 32-0, Kent Benson, Quinn Buckner, Scott May.
Guys.
Kent Benson?
Yeah.
That played for the Pistons?
That played for the Pistons. He was a stud in college.
Yeah, he was.
He was a stud in college. So historically, that 76 team, and then, I mean, the mid-60s to the mid-70s is John Wooden and UCLA. It goes from Bill Walton to Lou Alcindor, then Lou Alcindor.
On, yeah.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is what he became when he was in the NBA.
The guys couldn't play freshmen.
No.
You're a freshman, you couldn't play.
Larry Brown.
Varsity, yeah.
Larry Brown was the coach of the freshman team.
I didn't know
John,
that.
UCLA?
Yeah, John Wooden had Larry Brown coaching his freshmen and handing them off to him. That team won 7 national championships in a row and 9 out of 10 in a 10-year span.
Wow.
Yeah. 3 undefeated seasons in that run. The UCLA thing, I mean, you got to put them, but I agree with Tom that the Duke and the UNLV team, they kind of overlap for me, right? Because the UNLV got upset. They won the national championship. Then they got upset in the year that they were undefeated. And you look at that team, though, the Larry Johnson team, the Tarkanian with Stacey Augmon and Greg Anthony and Anderson Hunt and Ackles. Greg Anthony had to give up his scholarship. He was making so much money selling T-shirts on campus with his little business.
Yeah.
He had to give up his scholarship on that UNLV team. You got Christian Leitner, Grant Hill, Bobby Hurley.
So you talk too much.
I'm telling you right now, that little section right there of 1990 to 1992 with UNLV and Duke, we are very lucky to have been able to see those two teams playing it at the same time.
Absolutely.
Last but not, anybody want to throw some all-time teams in there?
My number one team is the '98 UConn Huskies with Rip Hamilton.
I got them on here.
That's my number one team. I mean, we watched him play for the Pistons, and we watched him in the tournament, and that's my number one team.
And why are they your number one team? I will tell you one little.
You should tell me.
I'm going to tell you why they're your number one team. Duke was favored by 10 points in the national championship game again. They were 37-1 and 19-0 in the ACC going into that game. UConn, even at 34-2, was discounted as a 10-point underdog, and El Amin and Rip Hamilton beat them by 3 points in that final game. And if you remember that, there was no chance that UConn was going to win that game. It was very similar to when Duke had no chance against UNLV, and Rip Hamilton and El Amin pulled that off. That was a great UConn team. I think the best team that didn't win anything was the Phi Slamma Jamma. 3 times in a row going to the Final Four with Clyde Drexler, Akeem Olajuwon.
That was a heck of a team, yeah.
Amazing basketball team. I'll throw on the Texas Western team. 29-1 in 1966. First team to play 5 African-American players on the floor at the same time. They beat Pat Riley's Kentucky team 72-65 to win the national championship. Those teams that break through the boundaries, Texas Western's not going to get much. That's UTEP now for those modern basketball historians. They're not going to get much run in today's day and age. But that was if you've seen the movie, you were taking a lot of risks at that time to be a trailblazer of that kind.
Mm-hmm. The Fab Five, they didn't never win the championship, right?
No. Yeah. No, we called timeout.
Right.
Chris Webber called timeout right at the. Was that the semifinal game?
Yeah, and in Indiana
so.
Indiana
was
State.
That in the finals? Was that in the finals?
That was in the
semifinal.
Yeah, it was in the Final Four. It was in the Final Four. Indiana State, Larry Bird in '79. He loses to he goes undefeated until he faces Magic Johnson in the championship game and loses the only game that they lost.
I got on here too. The 2006 Florida Gators, Al Herford, Corey Brewer, Joaquin Noah were on that team, so that was a really good team.
But that's Billy Donovan, right? Coaching that team.
I think so. Yeah, and then the 2003 Huskies with Emeka Okafor and Ben Gordon. There's so many of them.
You can't talk basketball unless you...
No, 1999 Michigan State Spartans, Mateen Cleaves and Morris Peterson. And
those guys,
I got them at number 8.
And I think the old-timers would also throw in there that NC State team that ended UCLA's streak in 1974 with David Skywalker Thompson, who was just a slam-dunking machine in the ABA and NBA.
How old were you, like 2?
I was 1. I was 1.
Yeah, how do you...
Because I liked David Thompson when he was in the ABA and NBA and decided to study the history of basketball at some point. So now we turn the page. We turn the page to the world of the National Basketball Association. And in the association, we have the bizarre world where the Boston Celtics win the world championship, and now they're for sale. They're going to be sold here momentarily. The bids are being taken. The private equity group that owns, this collective of rich people who own the Boston Celtics.
What are they asking?
Oh God, it's billions.
That's not fake news, is it?
It's not fake news.
I haven't heard that.
Wow.
The Boston
it's
Celtics, the deal, supposedly the deal is like months away from this thing being
so they've
closed.
already got a deal. It's gonna
I think the deal's already structured. Maybe they're down to just a couple of people who are
$8 bill.
in the bidding.
Is it $8 bill?
I don't know. We're gonna have to do a search on that.
Wow.
I know the last team that when Matt Ishbia bought the Phoenix Suns, it was $4 billion.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got to be.
It was for $4 billion.
It's going to be $8 billion.
When Tom Gores bought the Pistons, it was like $350 million.
Oh, is that all he got him for?
That's all
Was
he got
that
him
10 years ago already?
Yeah.
Thing has gone nuts.
Crazy.
Everything. There's so much money out there.
But it's funny when you bring that up because the another Hall of Fame owner, may he rest in peace. The Pistons, of course, were sold by Karen Davidson, Bill Davidson's wife, after Bill Davidson passed. I got a chance to meet Bill Davidson in the tunnel of the Palace. What a great guy. Like an aw shucks kind of guy. Like you'd never. I was telling you, Sam. He talked to me for 15 minutes, and then he walked out to receive an award. I didn't even know who was talking to me, and it's the owner of the Pistons. He won championships. He was an innovator. You were talking to me about the things that he innovated on that nobody had. Mm-hmm. The practice facility.
The
Now it used to be
airplane.
right next to the Palace,
yeah,
right?
the team,
It was
the
right
team
next to the
plane.
Palace. Yeah.
Nobody was doing it. Everybody was chartering planes.
Even when I played for the Lions, we chartered Northwest. Back
It's
when
a
it
big
was
difference.
Northwest.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
Bill Davidson was a track athlete at Michigan. He played football in the armed forces. He ends up in the Basketball Hall of Fame as an owner. Just a class act, and the bad boys of the NBA. When we talk about the history of Detroit basketball, I don't think there's ever been an era of Detroit basketball that was as ferociously contested and as controversial around the league as what the bad boys were able to produce.
Yeah. Back in the late 80s, I think I told you guys before we came in, I used to be a bartender at the Palace Grill.
Wow,
And,
right there. Yeah,
right there. And we used to have at all those home games, and we'd go down below, and it was amazing. It was an amazing time to be a
Every
basketball
home
fan.
game was sold out.
Everything was
Unbelievable.
sold out.
Yeah. A lot of those guys came and worked out in the summer at St. Cecilia.
Sure
Isaiah
did.
Thomas. And
Did they really?
Sure did.
They
yeah.
came and
Yeah.
okay.
I coached the team one time. My dad didn't, he was busy. I coached on one team: Magic Johnson, Isaiah, Earl Cureton, Greg Kelser, John Long, Terry Durrott, all on one team.
Nobody wanted to play him.
No, they wanted to play him.
Oh, they did.
They wanted to play him. Yeah.
Who was the guard that Isaiah Thomas was like, okay, timeout? After he got ripped a couple of times, he put on new shoes, he thought he was screwing around until he went against this guard at St. Cecilia.
Bo Dukes.
Bo Dukes.
Magician with the ball. Yeah, Isaiah was pissed because he said, wait a minute, you didn't tell me this guy could play like this? Yeah. Hold up.
Did Bo Dukes do anything?
Unbelievable. He was doing some globe-trotting
No.
stuff.
Did he go anywhere?
You know what? He was like 5'8".
We used to have guys that come in at Wayne State all the time that were amazing athletes, right? That just knew how to play football, right? And they were. We talk about them all the time. We said, God, we'd have been so much better if those 2 or 3 guys would have stayed.
Yeah.
But they had different priorities. They're out running, chasing women, drinking, whatever they're doing.
Bo Dukes, I think he ended up somewhere in Louisiana.
Yeah, I think so. He's an agent now. He's doing very
okay.
well. I think that he was ahead of his time with his. Now he would have made some team right now.
Oh yeah.
Even at 5'8", you get guys like that periodically that can play like that. But yeah, it was crazy.
Who do you like in the NBA right now? I mean, by the time this podcast drops, this is our prediction for the basketball season. The NCAA season hasn't started yet. We got a few games into the pro season. I mean, obviously Boston plays lockdown D and has tremendous, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. It's going to be hard for people to defend against that crew.
Porzingis, he hasn't even played yet.
No, he ain't even played.
Yeah.
You see the D that Jaylen Brown plays?
They all play D.
Half court.
Holiday
Picks it up at half court.
Yeah. Holiday's a hell of a defensive player.
Yeah,
And
he's
defense wins games. So after Boston, right now, top 4, Boston. Don't sleep on Cleveland. I like Cleveland right now.
I do.
Donovan Mitchell's a bitch.
Where they playing right now.
I mean, he is the next level
man,
right now.
He's strong as hell, can jump out the gym, can shoot. He does it all. And then they got Garland, Kid Garland, another guard.
Yeah.
I mean, they're loaded.
They're rotating 10 players.
Yeah, if they can stay healthy, they're going to do some damage. They're going to give Boston some trouble. And then out west, I like the OKC Thunder now.
Yeah.
They're young and hungry.
Jalen Williams. Yeah.
And I like
averaging 31 a game.
And I still like the Dallas Mavericks right now too.
Well, you add Klay Thompson to the devastating duo of Kyrie Irving and Doncic. It's all going to, Dallas is that front court going to give them anything? Are Washington and Gafford? It's a mid front court. When that front court has to go against some guys who can get after it in the low post. Hey, if you hit the threes, I mean that's what the NBA has become, right? If you hit the threes and you get out on the break, you get some easy buckets, you're going to be hard to beat. And I watched Doncic the other night. Oh my goodness, the range. He steps inside the gym and you got to cover him.
And his size.
Yeah,
he's
so
huge.
Fundamentally sound.
Yeah,
I saw that game too. That step back from
That
almost
step back
half
30
court for the money.
It was a 30-foot step back.
It barely touched the net.
So 32. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
I like the Knicks a lot too. That
I like
Michael
them too,
Bridges,
yeah.
I like a good 3-point shooter. They got Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson is playing well.
Yeah, it's a little
They're gonna
early
be
right
tough.
now. Yeah, once they settle
they
down,
gel a little bit,
they're going to be okay too.
so people looked at that and said, okay, they got rid of the kind of the Villanova crew. Brunson had all those Villanova guys around him. Now they brought in Towns. They got Bridges. They still got Hart.
Who's Villanova?
All those Villanova guys.
Julius
DiVincenzo.
Randle?
No, Julius Randle, DiVincenzo. All the
okay.
almost all
Yeah.
the bench guys, right?
Julius went to Villanova.
Julius Randle did not.
Okay.
Julius
I didn't
Randle,
think
but
so.
Julius Randle is
He's with Minnesota now.
he went to Minnesota. But DiVincenzo definitely went to Minnesota in that deal as well. I like the Caruso pickup. I think that OKC needed more on the bench. Alexander and Holmgren obviously were tremendous 1-2 punch. I love Indiana. I mean, I know that they didn't start out as hot as some of these other teams, but Halliburton, McConnell coming off the bench, Nebhard, Siakam, he's 20 points a game, and I don't think you can do anything with Halliburton in the fourth quarter. I mean, he seems to have ice water in his veins.
Mathurin he's pretty good too.
Yeah.
Mathurin 0-0.
I like Indiana. My sleeper.
I like the Nuggets.
You do have to.
You got Jokic. I mean, Russell Westbrook, Jamal Murray's on the team too.
Yeah, my sleeper would be the Phoenix Suns.
Me too.
Okay.
I'm with you on that one.
You do? I don't even have them on here.
You got Devin Booker.
Oh, I do.
Devin Booker, Brandon Beal, and Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones is a great addition because it takes the ball handling burden off of Beal and Booker. Now those guys can move. They can flood the lane. They can pop out. They can run off of multiple screens.
Yeah, he's a great point guard.
Hey, I mean, look, I'm talking for multiple minutes here on the Phoenix Suns, and I didn't mention Kevin Durant yet. I mean, they got Nurkic, they got Grayson Allen coming off the bench. You got to have a couple defenders, a couple guys who will piss the other team off and just be annoying as hell and get in their shorts. And I think that's
necessary on a sports team.
Absolutely,
To have somebody.
you got to have
you.
you got to have some pricks.
Somebody like you.
You got to have some pricks that
Have a
will
Dennis
just scrap.
Rodman or somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to get into the all-time teams, but let's talk. So who's going to be in the finals this year? Who do you got, Sam?
Boston and the Mavericks.
I got Boston and Denver.
Everybody likes Boston.
Yeah, how can you not?
And
Well, we've seen 3 games. All they do is fuck. What they have, like 35 threes or
Yeah,
something?
they
the
finally
first
lost
game?
last night, but they probably just,
Yeah, they
And Porzingis hasn't even played.
hadn't even played.
I would love to see Damon Lillard and Giannis, the Greek freak, make a move. I'd love to see Indiana make a move, but I agree with you guys. Cleveland's much better. I don't think anybody beats Boston. They play too good a defense. I like OKC, Minnesota, and Dallas, but I'm going to go with the Suns. I think the Suns are going to get in. I think Durant is going to find a way to stay healthy, and I think he's the difference down the stretch. I think it's Suns, Celtics.
We got a lot of time.
We do.
5 months to stay healthy.
All-time teams in the NBA. All-time teams in the NBA. We only got a few minutes to put this one together. Who do you got, Tom?
My number 1 team is the 95 Bulls. MJ, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. And you could also go, I got the 96 Bulls on here too. Kukoc and,
Yeah, you go. Bulls basically have 2 dynasties, right? You got the first 3 championships and the second 3 championships.
I'd say so.
Pre-White Sox baseball for Michael and post-White Sox baseball for Michael.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to argue that they're in the top 3. What about you, Sam?
I got the Bad Boys, both championships.
Oh, yeah. I got him on here, too.
I got the Lakers with Magic, Kareem, that run they had.
Showtime number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the 1983 76ers team with
Julius.
Jay,
Andrew
Malone.
Tony.
Mo Cheeks.
Who was the defensive?
Moses Malone.
Bobby Jones.
Yeah.
And they had
Moses Malone.
Andrew Tony.
Tony
Yeah.
and Cheeks.
Oh my goodness.
The team was loaded.
Yeah.
I love Dr. J. I just love
It was so smooth.
I don't know. I mean, I love watching Michael, but Dr. J was just unique.
I'm going to run you down mine. I love that the Golden State teams that went at it with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I do have to put that Cleveland Cavaliers team that found a way to beat them when they were down 3-1 with LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin Love and Richard Jefferson. That team coming back to beat Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. But then that Golden State team comes back and adds Kevin Durant. And to me, they move right into that top echelon. I do have the Pistons bad boys. I think the big 3 Miami Heat don't get enough run because it was more than the big 3. I think Shane Battier being on that team, Juwan Howard and Adonis Haslam being on that team. That team was deeper than people gave it credit for, the Miami Heat team. I also had your 76ers on my list, but I think the one that we're forgetting about, obviously, by the end of the list, you got to get to the Showtime Lakers, the Wilt Chamberlain Lakers, the Kobe Shaq Lakers. They had 3 dynasties. And the Boston Celtics from Bill Russell all the way up through the Larry
Bird, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, Kevin McHale.
They were tough.
Right?
Not once, but twice the Boston Celtics had all 5 guys on the floor in the Hall of Fame.
And actually, I think one of their best players was the center.
Robert
Parrish.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you go back to the Bill Russell and you got John Havlicek. Have you ever seen people run the numbers, John Havlicek against Michael Jordan? If you were just looking at the numbers, they're very comparable. John Havlicek had crazy sick numbers and like 6 or 7 world championships.
He never got tired.
And the one that I think a lot of people forget because it's a middle market team, but I have them on my Mount Rushmore, is the San Antonio Spurs with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Ginobili, and Kawhi Leonard all on the same team at the same time. That was a dominant squad that had multiple championships.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I also have the 71 Lakers on here with Elgin Baylor and Wilt Chamberlain were on the same team. Jerry West was on the team. I've got them at number 4.
That's another one that had all Hall of Famers. Gail Goodrich was on that team.
Yeah.
that was another. They could put 5 Hall of Famers on the floor.
And then also to the Bulls when they had Kukoc instead of a couple other the players that they had. Let's see, who else do I have on here? Oscar Robertson, 1970 Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh,
Oscar
with Lou Alcindor.
Hold on. Kareem was a rookie.
Yeah.
Right?
Won the Rookie of the Year.
Kareem played for them in 1970 when they won it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, sure did.
They brought Oscar Robertson over at the end of his career, but he still had a lot left in the tank. There's been some great teams in NBA history. My favorite team, and I don't know why, the era in my life, even more than the Bad Boys Pistons, my favorite team was that Dr. J, that 76ers
I was
team.
going to tell you, that was mine too. I was
just
living in Philly at that time.
The way that team played, the chips, it didn't seem like they were always the underdog, and I loved an underdog, right? They had lost to so many of those great teams in the Eastern Conference, and you just wanted Dr. J to break through and get one.
Just get a ring, and they traveled like rock stars. Everywhere they went, even when for their away games, it was sold out. Everybody wanted to see that team play.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I love that team. So, and I don't think the 76ers have found their way anywhere near.
No.
Almost when they had Allen Iverson they
Yeah.
lost in the championship to the Lakers, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been a long road for the
time.
Philadelphia
Yeah.
76ers. They haven't been able to find it. I hope our Pistons can find it. I hope that Cade Cunningham can double down on this recent success here. They've been in these games, but they just don't have enough in the fourth quarter. They don't have enough in the tank.
They're getting better.
All right, gentlemen, this was wonderful. It was a well-produced, mediocrely researched, and half-ass presented podcast.
I think it was mediocrity in the production.
Mediocre. Okay. All right. Well, we did get the Maker's Mark right, and we got the
right.
Diet Coke. So God bless and good luck. And please join us, share us, watch us, subscribe to us. We'd love to have you join us next time here on GOATQUEST. So thanks again. We are going to have additional episodes of Sam and I diving deep into the history of St. Cecilia. St. Sam documentary that Sam and I have been working on is deeply in the works, and we hope you can join us for those episodes. Those are going to be audio only. Look for them on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We're on Podbean and everywhere that you can find your podcast listening needs.